What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you. And, well, full disclosure, if you're watching this right now, we are at Full Terror Assault, but we were lucky enough to actually get this one early. We wanted to get one out for Friday. So here we go. We are going to go over the debut full-length from Fossilization, Leprous Daylight. This comes out on the 8th of September on Everlasting Spew Records. This band formed in 2020 in Sao Paulo, Brazil. As I said, this is their first full-length. We went over their debut EP, He Whose Name Was Long Forgotten, and we went over their awesome split with Ritual Necromancy, which was absolutely fucking amazing.
Yep, still one of my favorites. Oh. I jam that all the time.
And for those that don't know, this is death metal / death doom. This one is definitely a little bit different. Like before, I would have said flat out death doom. It's murky, it's cavernous, it sounds like it's dripping with all sorts of fluids, like kind of nondescript ones, but I'm pretty sure they don't smell good. And that was kind of what I was expecting when I heard they were coming out with a full length, but then I heard the first single, or at least one of the singles they dropped, Oracle of Reversion, and I was like, this is a little bit different. I would say this is definitely a shift to more death metal with death doom elements still in it. This is much faster, much more aggressive, but just as dark and just dissonant and ugly as ever.
Yeah, it's kind of like death metal with doom pockets and groovy pockets.
Lots of stuff that is very familiar to like classic bands like Morbid Angel and Incantation, but also bands like Gorophilia or Ascended Dead. Actually, Ascended Dead, I was kind of surprised I was reminded a lot of them in terms of the more dissonant tremolos. The guitars are thick and layered. They are absolutely ugly sounding, and pretty much this whole album is a swirling maelstrom of just chaotic, apocalyptic riffing. Again, very much in the vein of Incantation, because these tremolos are ugly and just, I don't know, there's an ominous vibe about this, despite this album being notably more aggressive.
But it's not so chaotic that it's confusing either. Like, it doesn't get lost too much in the sound. Like, there's a ton going on, and even though it's chaotic, it's not chaotic at the same time. There's just layers and layers of sound. It's like a wall of fucking sound.
It's absolutely suffocating at times, like wall-to-wall dissonance. Again, the guitar and bass kind of just meld together as this just wall of noise. There's almost like a static hiss in the background behind all these just atonal, dissonant tremolos that are all over here. But the thing that really caught me off guard is the pace of it. The pace of this is actually very fast, so I don't know if I can necessarily call this death doom anymore, but when they do slow down, you know, you kind of get that sort of vibe. But honestly, this album doesn't slow down very often, like not until probably the last two tracks, Aeon and Wrought in the Abyss. The rest of this, you kind of get pockets, as we said, like moments where they slow it down, kind of groove it up, and occasionally sort of change the formula around. Once Was God and Aeon actually have these cool crawling atonal riffs that sort of slither through the song, and these are moments where it actually kind of slows down to a, you know, I would say a death doom breakdown. Like it kind of feels more like a slow death metal vibe. Like the doom element is kind of just like a more like all-encompassing feeling in terms of this album, but not necessarily in style.
Although Wrought in the Abyss, I would call more so a death doom song. Like that song, the dominant force behind that song is a slower, mid-tempo, disgusting doom groove.
And surprisingly, a little bit more melodic than I would say the rest of this album. The rest of this album really kind of thrives on the dissonance and those weird atonal, sort of squawky, hissing riffs. That song, especially at the end, gets into flat out like melodic death doom territory with like a big, just miserable hook. Like it is the most bleak, you know, just, you know, everything went wrong that day kind of breakdown. Like you're just sitting in the corner crying, but it's absolutely awesome. I mean, you know, we think, you know, depressing shit's awesome here, but I really like the whole like kind of My Dying Bride, Paradise Lost, and like a little bit of Hooded Menace sort of just swirled up into a nice, you know, whirlwind of depression that moves slow.
The end of that song, though, is pretty.
Yeah.
Even though it's dark and evil and depressing, it's very pretty. It's the harmonized riff and the breakdown that does it.
And often the harmonies in here are, like, more unpleasant in terms of, like, oh, if you're looking for, like, oh, that's really pretty and hooky. It's not what I'm talking about.
Not going to be here.
This is like layered dissonant melodies and tremolos that just kind of create this wall of just absolute darkness. At the Heart of the Nest has some absolutely scathing tremolo riffs that, man, it's just this kind of whirlwind of possessed hornets that just enter your brain.
Yep, that was my thought. Today is like the 10th time I've listened to this since I found out we got it early, and we've had it for a while but didn't realize it. Yeah, hornets eating your brain. The production on this, first of all, done by the drummer of Crypts, which is probably why the drums stick out just a little bit more than they did, at least in the EP. It's a little bit more clear, like it's not as fuzzy as I think the EP was, but it's also a little bit more hefty too. I went back and listened to the EP today just so I could compare and contrast, and it just has a little bit more warmth to the guitars and warmth to the drums, and like you can tell it was produced by a drummer. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, the snare has a good pop to it, which is really good because you get a lot of blast beats on here, which again was kind of a big shake-up from the debut EP. And even the split, like the split definitely had some more blasty material. You could definitely tell that they were, branching out their sound a bit. But this one really kind of goes to the throat in terms of blast beats, so it's good you have a good, nice poppy snare there. The bass drums have a great punch to them.
Big boomy kick. And then the vocals now sit just a little bit more in the background. Not that they didn't before, but like it's noticeably more about the music in this case, whereas the vocals just take on kind of like that background growl.
They're a little bit less cavernous, maybe. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell because the guitars are so dominant and up front. Like there could be some extra reverb on them. It's just, they're really trying to get past the guitars, which good luck.
Except at the Heart of the Nest. They're laid on heavy on the reverb on the vocals, I noticed.
The single chord breakdowns on there, which honestly is one of the few moments where it kind of breaks from faster paced riffs. Like there's a lot of tremolo in here, which was definitely an observation we made on the EP, but they do break it up a little bit more in here. They're kind of playing essentially the same style they did, except I think it's way more aggressive and way more dark, and it's kind of lost, again, a bit of the flat-out doominess, because, again, this is, like, definitely more of a shift towards death metal. Like, I don't know, like, there are death doom elements on here for sure, but I would have trouble calling this flat-out death doom now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do that either. Although doomy moments do appear in every song, I don't think there's a song without them. It's just a moment. It's just a pocket. They use it for the breakdown, or they use it to transition or something. Like in the title track, there's a blasty tremolo section, and they use like a groove tag on it. It's got a little doom tag on the end, but it's not the dominant driving force, which is okay.
Yeah.
It's just something new that they've incorporated.
Yeah, generally like the groove sections are they take the tremolo riff that they're working on and kind of, half time it for a second, and occasionally shift into like, again, like a more straightforward like death metal sort of breakdown. But in terms of like the flat out doomy moments, honestly, they really didn't pop up until the end. Like you had a little bit again at the Heart of the Nest, but that was sort of an isolated moment there where it really kind of took on that doomy characteristic. I do like the addition of the fun stomping rhythms where like the drummer is just hitting everything at once. Like on these songs, Oracle of Reversion, The Night Spoke the Tongue of Flames. That's quite a fucking mouthful. Actually, it oddly reminds me of like some like 2005 like, metalcore melodic death metal band. Like, yeah, but no, the song's awesome. And the song Eon, you get these just giant stomping rhythms that, I don't know, it kind of has like that more simplistic, primal sort of like, like Celtic Frost sort of vibe. And there are blackened moments on here, I would say. Like, the vocals definitely stay more in that death metal register. It's that deep, cavernous roar. But when it came down to like some of the riffs, like there are some chord progressions on here that would not sound out of place on like more blackened death metal, like maybe like a little bit like Archgoat or some shit like that. They're colder, they're a different kind of dissonance, and they kind of create like a much more sinister atmosphere overall.
Yeah, the stomping section in At the Heart of the Nest reminded me of Nightmare's Tabafel. I think that's how you say it. But if you listen to that song, there's just that stomp that incorporates just everything being hit all at once, and it was kind of that same lineup, just done grosser.
Now, honestly, like some of my favorite tracks were towards the end of the album, especially the last two. I think the last two, Eon and Rot in the Abyss, are giant standouts. And that is because there is like a level of familiarity there too. Now, Eon definitely has some blast beat sections, but is one that kind of sticks more to a groovier, sort of drum pattern overall. And the riffs get a little bit more doomy this time. And that was something that I was kind of, getting used to with this album, was the more aggressive death metal sound that is on here. I kind of missed the death doom side, and hearing a song like that was sort of a blend of their old sound and what they're currently doing is like, dude, that comes together beautifully. And the last song being just flat out death doom. Like, it is slow, murky, and miserable as hell. That was kind of something I thought was missing on this album. A lot of these songs tend to just explode right out of the gate. Blast beats, atonal riffing, it's just murky and evil, and it kind of lacks maybe like a little bit of the subtlety in terms of like leading it in, like, the EP had. This is the difference between like fast zombies and slow zombies. Like, it's kind of that, like the slow zombies, like, we got time, it's not going to get here. And then the fast zombie just all of a sudden just comes after you like Usain Bolt. So yeah, like a lot of the songs exploding right out of the gate, I don't know, like after a while, that dynamic kind of made like the format kind of a little too repetitive.
Well, yeah, especially when you start all the songs on the same kind of note like that, there's no way to really differentiate between them, at least from the start. You have to pick through them until you can tell them apart. And as much as they started out of the gate with just kind of kicking in the door, they also ended often on the same note. They either ended with like a droning tremolo or a droning note or feedback or whatever, but they all kind of ended the same way, except for the last track. Again, the last track is kind of the creme de la creme here, at least as far as I'm concerned, of the record. But yeah, having it all end on the same note and start on the same note was just kind of like, really? Like, you couldn't figure out any way else to end this?
But honestly, like, the middle of the songs generally is where you get all the cool dynamic shifts. Yeah. And there are distinct moments in, like, every song that you can pick out in terms of, like, again, like a weird riff or, like, a particular breakdown or just, like, an awesome blast beat pattern. For me, like, it came down to, like, pacing, though. And I think maybe those last two tracks maybe kind of peppered somewhere in the middle. I don't know, like, might have broken up the pace a little bit on here, because you get a little bit too much of this, I wouldn't say like newer sound, but this shift towards like a faster sound. But honestly, I think it's all executed really well, and man, is this fucking heavy. Like, this is just an absolutely gross album, and ultimately that was kind of what I was looking for, whether they kind of stayed slow and kind of gloomy or they sped it up and, got more brutal. These guys know how to write fucking riffs and create atmosphere that is just absolutely dark and
caustic.
It's ugly as hell. So overall, I'm gonna give this 4 stars. Despite my complaints on here, I enjoyed every song on here, even the opening track, which is like just a little opening salvo. It's not necessarily like an intro, it's like a actual musical piece that has a little break in it and then it goes into the next song. I think this is really well done. The shift in terms of style, there's still some kinks to work out, I think, just in terms of like embracing a little bit more of that death doom groove that really got them noticed. But still, what they're doing right now, I think, is really awesome. This might just take a little bit more getting used to in terms of, just, it is definitely different than the EP. But, I mean, if you're a big fan of Incantation, Ascended Dead, Morbid Angel, Mortiferum, I would say is definitely in there too. If you just like your death metal, caustic, dark, dissonant, and hating everything that is wonderful in this world and just wanting to crush underneath its cloven hoof, it's this album. Check it out.
Yeah, I'm with Nick. It's a solid 4. I didn't really have a lot of dull moments in this music. Like, I liked every track. Again, even the intro was killer with the yucky fucking weird sounds in the beginning. And the direction they're moving in, I think they're doing a really good job of getting there. Like, granted, too, I liked the death doom elements, at least in the EP. That was a big seller on that record for how gross that album was. But, like, even leaving the doom now to be a seasoning where it would have been before the full course, like, they're still doing a really good job. The death metal elements that they're adding, although it just may be blast beats, it is intense as fuck. They just kick down the door and they don't stop moving. And even when it does get slower, they still don't stop moving. This record is gross and nasty and everything that I thought it would be in terms of that. Dissonant, dark, caustic, suffocating, heavy as balls. That's what you want. And that's what they gave us. Again, yeah, if you're a fan of Incantation or Morbid Angel or Ascended Dead or Mortiferum or really any of the bands that fall in that category, I could really go for days. I could pull up Spotify and just be like, yep. Sedimentium, I think is another good one. Yeah, if you're a fan of all that, you're definitely going to like this. I would definitely recommend checking this out. These guys don't seem to skip a beat, like ever. So check this out. Check out all the rest of their shit, but mostly check out this record.
And go see their set at MDF next year.
We will be there.
Yeah,
it will be fucking awesome.
I'm going to have to make time to see this band because, I mean, well, shit, there's so many bands to see there, but I definitely want to see them. And yeah, no, this is sick. So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below at thrallsmetal.com. The store, I believe, is actually open right now. There should be an announcement probably at some point. I don't know. It may have already happened, because we're speaking to you from the future.
Oh, that's right.
Right now.
Hello.
But either way, there should be shirts in there. There should be hats as well. Definitely go check it out. And our Patreon link is also on our channel somewhere too.
Yep, and right now, if you're seeing this, we're at Full Terror Assault. It is hot outside. It is sweaty. There are people with beers. Someone threw up. I'm just saying, we're in the future. Yeah, but we're there, but we're also speaking to you, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, October 1st, Revocation, Unearth, Entheos, and High Command are back at our hometown venue, Frankie's, in Toledo, Ohio. $25. Go there. Just do it. Just fucking go there. I've been there a billion times. It's like our CBGBs. It's actually roughly about the same size, too. But don't let that frighten you. Actually, one of the first times I saw Revocation ever was at Frankie's. Yep, opened up for the Faceless.
It was a killer show.
It was a badass show. It's a great venue to see, but come out. Fucking come out. We will be there.
I don't know if that's a plus or not that we'll be there, but we will be there. But you should be there because it looks like it's going to be an awesome show. And, of course, thank you all so much for liking, subscribing, following, all that shit.
Thank you.
Again, it is absolutely amazing doing this, and you guys make it that much more fun. Plenty of content coming in the future. I mean, well, we're talking from the future right now. Woo! But I believe Miller should be covering some other key releases that have come out this week, so stay tuned for those. And when we get back, at some point, we will tell you our story of our journey to Full Terror Assault.
We will be sunburned.
We will be sunburned.
Because I didn't pick up sunscreen.
Oh, you'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I'll be fine.
You'll be fine. Either he'll be fine or he'll just be a carcass being feasted on by raccoons and coyotes. One or the other. I'm sure there's some middle ground, but I'm totally ignoring that for the sake of comedy. Either way, thank you guys once again, and we will catch you later.